In this video, I want to go over how to use Excel to make a histogram. And a histogram is a graph that shows the distribution of data. So in other words, we've got some information about students using social media. How many times per day do they check social media? We have 12 middle school students, 12 upper school students, and now we want to graph that in a histogram to show that data. Okay, so first thing I want to do is it'd be useful to see my data arranged numerically from smallest to highest. So if I highlight my middle school data and I go over here to sort and filter, just click on that and drop down, sort smallest to largest. I'll just click on that. And it says, do you want to expand this? Because it's seeing that I didn't include some data on here. And I want to say, no, I just want this data. I don't want my averages and all that sorted in there. So I'm going to do that. And notice I've got 5, 5, 6, 6. So now I've got all my data numerically sorted. I want to do the same thing with my upper school data. And again, sort smallest to largest. Continue with current selection. And now I'll be able to see if my graph is correct, because I can see I've got 2 5s for middle school, 1 4 for upper school. I can also see what my smallest and greatest values are, right? So 4 is going to be my smallest value, 14 is going to be my greatest value. So I have to create another data table to basically show how many of each of those values. How many 4s, how many 5s, how many 6s. So I'm going to type in a 4 and a 5, and again, I could type all the way down to 14, or I could just click and grab this little square on the corner and drag down. Notice I've got a little number there. It shows me how far down I need to go. So there, 14. Okay, now I want to create, and I want to also include these two labels on here. So I'm going to just go over here. I'm going to go equals, and then I'm going to click on this cell, and it's going to basically copy that right there. Notice it didn't format it, so I still have to go ahead. Well, I'll do the other one first. So this one is going to be equals upper school, and then whoops, I'm going to highlight the two of them, and I'm going to wrap the text so that it looks like that. Okay, now for my middle school students, number 4, I want to count all of those, so I'm going to go equals count if. You see where it says count if, C-O-U-N-T-I-F, okay? And that's going to count the number of cells with that range, within that range of a given criteria. Okay, so if I click on that one, oops, count, I'll just keep typing here, count if, okay? And then my range is going to be this range right here, okay? Except I want to put some dollar signs. Dollar signs means I want to keep going 3 through 14 the whole time. So I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the 3 and a dollar sign in front of the 14. Since I'm just going down, it doesn't matter that I'm with the B value, but I'll explain that later. Okay, all right. Now, so that's kind of the range. And then what value do I want to look at? Well, I want to look at this value right here, 4. And I'm just going to click on that, okay? And there we go. And I'm also going to put a dollar sign in front of my E, because I just want to keep on this E column when I do this, and I'll explain why in a second. So I'm going to put a dollar sign there. These dollar signs are going to be important in a minute, and I'll show you why. Okay, so now I've got 0, so that makes sense. I don't have any 4s in my middle school students. My lowest number is 5. So, but again, now I want to do the same thing for each of these values. Okay, and usually if I drop down, it would compare this, and it would go down to my next value, and each time I go down in this one, it'll drop down here. But since I put those dollar signs there, it's going to continue looking at this static range. It's not going to change the range down each time. All right, so if I drag these down, you can see 2 5s. Well, I have 2 5s, that's right. 2 6s, I'm sorry, 3 6s right there is correct. So you can kind of double check because I sorted them numerically, okay? And then I can also drag over, and notice here I've got 1 4. That's correct, okay? And the reason I put the dollar sign in front of that E value is if I dragged over, it would have changed in this one, the E would have changed to F. It would have moved from this cell to this cell, and it would have said how many zeros, and it would have given me a 0 value. But I put the $ there to say, no, I want to stay on E, even though I'm moving one column over. And then I'm going to drag these down. Oops. And I've got the same thing. I've got 1 5, I've got 2 6s, right? I've got 2 7s, and you can see it did it correctly, okay? And I want to now just go ahead and make my data table look a little more like a table. So I want to put borders on it, and I'm just going to click on all borders. Okay. And now all I need to do is highlight my data. I'm going to keep my titles in there, and I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go to Recommended Charts. And if I look around, you can see this one looks like a histogram, right? So I'm going to click on that one. Okay. And I'm going to hit OK. And there we go. Okay. So you can see I've got my labels down here for that. The one thing that's wrong with this graph right now, if you look at it, right, is that we have 1 through 11, okay? So what I need to do is I need to tell it that it's not 1 through 11, it's actually 4 through 14, okay? So the way I do that is up here in the Design tab, I want to go over to Select Data. And over here for the horizontal axes labels, okay, instead of 1 to 11, I want to edit those, okay, and it's going to say, well, what do you want? Okay, and I'm going to click on Select Range, and then I'm just going to highlight the numbers I want, since I have them right here, okay, and I hit Enter, and I go OK, and now you can see they're correct on there, and I hit OK, and now I've got 1 4 for upper school, 2 5s for middle school. You can see I've got everything on there. My chart title, I can just click on it and I can change that. I do like to have my y-axes labeled, so I can click on chart element and I can go to axis titles and I can say primary vertical and I can label that, number of students. And down here I've got this. I could put a label on my x-axis as well, but I've got my histogram chart made here in Excel.